Good morning, Warzone kids. Back for part 3 of Logos, Mythos, Moo. That's what I'm going to name this little series. Emptiness. It's a word all over the place in Zen. And I just went through like what that means to me at this present moment. Form, feeling, and the idea of the green and gold or yellow and white dress that was on the web a few years ago, that was all the rage, that drove everyone crazy. Is it really green and gold, or is it really yellow and red? Mix them up again, I have no idea. Well, it's whatever you saw. What did you see? There's not a true answer beyond that. That's emptiness with regard to perceptions. Feelings, anger, rage, whatever the feeling is, it's that feeling. A few videos ago, I did a thing on about borderline and Zazen, and my story about the underwear and the wrong underwear in the suitcase, which, by the way, my sense of pride wants me to say that is just a story I made up to illustrate the concept. This did not happen to me. The other things not that much different did, but not that one. That's an example of the perception of the way that the form of the underwear, the form of the wrong underwear, led to the perception of the form in the suitcase. I got to get these right. The form in the suitcase, the patch of red lace, led to the perception of the wrong underwear, which led to the feeling of betrayal. No, which led to the feeling of a knotted up guts, churning, tightness in the throat, heart pounding, combination of rage, disgust, shame, humiliation, etc., which gave rise to the mental formation, to bring us closer to the point. The mental formation of betrayal. The mental formation of betrayal. And all that occurred in my consciousness. There. Those are the 5 skandhas filtered through this guy who lives with borderline personality disorders experience. All those 5 skandhas were empty. The patch of red is just a patch of red. Even if it was underwear, the underwear is just underwear. The perception that they were the wrong underwear was just a perception that they were the wrong underwear. It wasn't true, or maybe it was. But it was just a perception. The feelings were just the feelings. They weren't feelings because they were true, were they? No, they were just feelings. My assessment of betrayal was just my assessment of betrayal. Wasn't true. My consciousness is a consciousness that exhibits a set of characteristics that, if you use the handy shorthand of borderline personality disorder, will tell someone else a lot about the kind of thing they might expect from interacting with the guy in whose head that consciousness can be found. There. That's my borderline case study of the 5 skandhas and emptiness. How about that? So, the one about betrayal, forms, perceptions, feelings, mental formations. Again, probably better just stick with the word. And you have a choice. Samskara or Sankhara. Those are related versions of the word which stands in for the concept of mental formations in your head. I like Sankhara better because it feels better in my mouth. It is a more pleasing word to say than samskara. Doesn't matter. The concept, mental formations. Let's ponder on that for a minute. Mental formations, concepts, the Eisenhower interstate system, truth, justice, in the American way, from each according to his means, to each according to his needs. It's a mental formation. Justice, Zen, these are mental formations. Betrayal, mental formations. Metaphysics, the word, mental formations. That's a mental formation. See, these are all mental formations. Sankhara. And the consciousness is the canvas or the space in which all the other skandhas are to be found. So, Sankhara, I did all that to get to Sankhara. Logos, mythos, mu, negatory. Is the Shobogenzo, does Dogen write a logos or a mythos? Well, whatever the Shobogenzo is, it is written in its mental formations. I mean, the words on the page are mental formations, or at least the words on the, no, thank you. The words on the page are forms that I perceive as letters, which my mind puts together into mental formations of the concepts. It reconstitutes the letters into words, sentences, concepts, images, mental formations, right? It's a chain. From the weird black shapes on the white paper or on my white e-ink screen on my Kindle, my mind reconstitutes a bunch of mental formations. Once upon a time, mental formations somewhat similar to those existed in Dogen's consciousness. And Dogen took those mental formations, put them into sentences, put them into pieces, paragraphs. That's probably not a coherent word with regard to someone writing in Japanese. But he arranged those mental formations into a piece of writing, or into a mental formation which he delivered to the monks, to the monastics. And his assistant wrote them down in squiggly marks and put them in a bottle, threw them in the ocean of time, and they came to me. And I got that bottle, and I opened it up, and I found squiggly marks on a page, and I turned those into words and mental formations, and in my mind, something has arisen which bears some relation to the mental formations that arose in Dogen's mind 800 years ago. That's why I love reading old books. But that's not the answer to the question, logos or mythos. Mu! No, not a logos, not a mythos. Sankhara, mental formations. A logos is to go the other way. You could say a logos is a set of mental formations which is meant to be true. When Aristotle wrote the Metaphysics, there's a big long sections in there about the essence of things. The essence of things. The phrase in Greek is great. Tatoti eninai. The what it was to be. We have the English word essence. In Greek, Aristotle said, what is the essence of this road? He'd have said, what it is to be of this road? Essence. The what it was to be. And he would tell you that it's true. It's true. When you can determine the essence of something, the what it was to be of that thing, and this is you have learned the truth about this thing. To discover the truth about something, for Aristotle, would have meant something like putting together a true logos of its essence. I'm not exactly right on that. I'm a humanist, not a scholar. But I'm also not wrong about that. And Aristotle, I think, would agree with this. That's right. Aletheia is a Greek word for truth. This logos of reality is true. That's what the metaphysics purports to be. It's going to give you an account of reality. Let me relate that back to Sankhara and emptiness. What would it mean to say of Sankhara, of these mental formations, that they're empty? When you say of a road, the form of this road is empty. The form of the road is nothing other than the road. You can see how, without too many mental gymnastics, I could look at this road right now and say, the concept of form is this, what presents itself to me is essentially a two-dimensional ribbon with ruts of pavement, patches of white snow, patches of white on the side, patches of brownish, grayish in the middle, and some barely discernible yellow lines running down the middle of it. That form is just the form, it's nothing else. Everything else is a perception, a feeling, sankhara, and it all happens in my consciousness. Right? So to say a form is empty, you can wrap your head around it. And that's how I wrap my head around it. What does it mean to say a sankhara is empty? Perception of the underwear, that's empty. It's just a perception of underwear. The feelings, those are empty. Those are just feelings. My feelings are not necessarily true. They're just feelings. What does it mean to say of sankhara? Mental formations. What does it mean to say of them that they are empty? Really? What does that mean? Read the Heart Sutra. It's all well and good. You can exoticize this stuff and think it just means something mystical and spiritual. Then you're not really thinking about it. You're just punting. And fine. I mean, I happen to be a cerebral guy that likes this stuff, so I could not tolerate the feeling of punting on that in my mind. What does it mean for sankhara to be empty? What could it possibly mean? Answer in part 4. I have no idea how many parts this thing will be, but that's how many parts it'll be. Till then, keep in walking shoes on, Pilgrim. We got a lot more to talk about.